Hospitalization. You're planning to use that as an excuse to slack off on housework even more. Slack off? I didn't mean to. If you keep shirking your chores, divorce is next. My husband spoke these words casually, unfazed by my upcoming hospital stay. He seems to think he can intimidate me with the threat of divorce, believing that dangling the possibility will make me more obedient. What an insult. Being a housewife doesn't mean I'll let myself be pushed around. I'm definitely going to divorce him and escape from this hell. I'm Sandy Davis, 28 years old. A year ago, I married Kenny, a colleague from work. Although we were in different departments, our frequent interactions led to a relationship. After a smooth courtship, we got married. I left my job and embraced life as a full-time housewife. Before we tied the knot, Kenny had said to me, "Sandy, after we get married, I'd like you to be a full-time housewife." Really? But I actually like my job. My mom was always a stay-at-home mom, and I think it's best for women to manage the home. Because of her, my dad could focus on his work without any stress. Is that so? Are you sure? I'm not exactly an expert in housework. That's all right. All I ask is that you manage the house without overburdening yourself. I'll handle the earning. All right, Kenny, if that's what you want, I'll give being a housewife a try. So, I left my job and embraced my new role as a housewife. Navigating the unfamiliar chores was tough, but I was living the life I had dreamed of with Kenny, whom I loved deeply. After losing my parents a few years ago, Kenny was my only family, and I was determined to cherish our life together. But happiness is fleeting. 6 months into our marriage, Kenny came home in an unusually foul mood. Normally, he'd greet me with a cheerful "I'm home," even if he was tired, but today was different. He sighed heavily and collapsed onto the sofa. I approached him with caution. "Kenny, welcome home. You look exhausted. Are you okay?" Dinner is ready. Would you prefer to eat first or take a shower?" "Hey, Sandy, can't you see I'm deep in thought? Stop bothering me." With wide eyes and a fierce glare, my husband erupted in anger. I had never seen him so enraged before, and I flinched instinctively. I'm sorry." Even as I quickly apologized, he made a loud, dismissive click of his tongue. His frustration spilled over as he began to vent his irritation on me. "Must be nice, just lounging around the house all day." "Wait, Kenny, what's this all of a sudden? You're supposed to be a housewife, but you're really just idling away while I'm at work. You're really the worst." "Hold on, I'm constantly doing chores around the house." "Shut up, you're nothing but a leech and you have the nerve to talk back to me." Without warning, he yanked a handful of my hair, lifting it painfully. Terror surged through me, and I cried out in desperation, "Stop it." But my plea fell on deaf ears. For the next hour, I was bombarded with harsh words, being called an inept wife and a freeloader. "I'm cutting our monthly expenses," he announced, his disdain for me growing daily. At first, he reduced our spending money by $100, but now I was left with only half of what I used to receive. Our relationship had devolved into something far from husband and wife. It felt more like master and servant. And this was just a year into our marriage. A year might seem short, but for me, it was a year of torment. Since Kenny lost his temper, time seemed to drag agonizingly slow. Each night, I faced his reprimands and blame for every minor infraction. Despite everything, I stayed with Kenny because I couldn't bring myself to truly dislike him. I clung to the hope that one day he would return to the man I once knew. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. As I was cleaning the house, my cell phone rang. I glanced at the screen and saw a name I hadn't seen in ages. Lori, a former coworker. Thrilled by the surprise call, I quickly answered. "Hello, Lori. It's been a while." "Sandy, it's been too long. Do you have time to talk?" "Absolutely." "I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you having problems with your husband?" "Problems? Why do you ask?" "I recently heard something unsettling. Kenny has been speaking poorly of you at work." "Wait, what's going on?" Lori explained that my husband had been portraying himself as very dominant at home. He'd been saying things like, "She can't do anything without me. She's utterly helpless with housework. If it weren't for me, she'd be divorced by now." Apparently, he had been bad-mouthing me to former colleagues and junior staff in his department. Since I used to work at the same company, everyone there knows me. Some of my old coworkers who are familiar with me had subtly defended me, but it seems this only injured Kenny further. He began ignoring and cold-shouldering those who stood up for me. As a result, the trust he had built was eroding, and the atmosphere in his department had reportedly become quite tense. Hearing this, Lori grew concerned and decided to reach out to me. I was left speechless by the news. I felt not only guilty but also deeply embarrassed that Kenny was causing problems for his colleagues. I'm sorry, Lori. It seems Kenny has been stirring up trouble. It's okay. He doesn't even listen to me at home. I understand, but it's important to address this before it gets worse for both your sake and Kenny's. You're right. Thanks, Lori. I'll make sure to talk to him tonight. Try to, and remember, if you need to talk, I'm always here. After thanking Lori and ending the call, I returned to my cleaning, resolute to have a serious conversation with Kenny when he got home. I waited anxiously for his return. Several hours later, Kenny walked through the door as usual, heading straight for the fridge to grab a beer. Lately, he had stopped saying, "I'm home," or sharing details about his day. After finishing his meal, he would often start lecturing me, so I decided to bring up the topic before he could even take a sip of his beer. "Hey Kenny, how's work been lately?" "Ha! Why the sudden question? I'm not so incompetent that you need to worry about me. It's not about work. I actually heard something today. It seems you've been talking about me behind my back at the office." "Talking behind my back? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb." I stared at him, making it clear that I wasn't buying his act. I confronted him directly, catching him off guard. "What's your goal here? It's not just at home. You're bad-mouthing me at work too. What's the point of creating a toxic atmosphere in your department?" "Huh? What are you talking about? Do you realize that everyone is suffering because of you, Kenny? Why can't you see that? If you want to criticize me to my face, go ahead, but don't drag your colleagues into this mess." As soon as I finished speaking, a sharp slap echoed through the room. A dull, spreading pain on my left cheek made me realize my husband had just hit me. "Why did you do that?" "Why? It's because you keep talking back." "Talking back? I was just trying to express my concern for you, Kenny." "Be quiet. You have no right to boss me around. Understand this. You're only here because of me. If you get that, then stay silent and manage the house." His words were harsh and delivered with a cold, commanding tone. I was left speechless, overwhelmed by fear that paralyzed me. Despite my instinct to respond, my body refused to move. Afterward, Kenny resumed drinking his beer as if nothing had happened. He laughed while watching TV and ordered me to bring him snacks. In the end, no matter how much I worried about him or tried to communicate my concerns, it seemed futile. No matter what I said or did, I couldn't get my husband to understand. His treatment of me continued to deteriorate day by day. My heart and body were both suffering. One day, while on my way to the grocery store, I was suddenly overcome with severe nausea. My vision blurred, and an intense dizziness struck me so violently that I couldn't stay on my feet. When I came to, I found myself in a hospital bed. The doctor, seeing me awake, explained my condition with gentle concern. "You collapsed on the street. You're suffering from malnutrition, and the stress has caused you to develop a stomach ulcer." Hospitalization. But I'm a stay-at-home wife, and the household chores. What are you talking about? If you keep going like this, you'll end up completely worn out. I understand, but it was already past 7 p.m., so I decided to contact my husband to bring me some clothes. As I pulled out my phone, I was surprised to find a flood of messages that had arrived within the past hour. "Where are you? Get home immediately. You're such a drain on my finances, neglecting your chores." He must have returned from work, found everything undone, and lost his temper. Summoning my courage, I called him. After a few rings, he answered. "Where the hell have you been? What are you doing?" he shouted as soon as he picked up. Taking a deep breath, I calmly explained the situation. "The doctor said I need to be hospitalized for about a week." "So, hospitalization, huh? Are you planning to use that as an excuse to slack off even more?" "I'm not slacking off. It's just, you're already neglecting your chores. Next, it'll be divorce." "What, are you afraid of being alone if we split up? You don't have any relatives, do you? If I leave, you'll be completely on your own." Instead of showing any concern for my hospitalization, he was threatening divorce to force me to come home. At that moment, a rage I had never experienced before reached its peak. Enough, I've had enough. I realized that I could never be happy living with this man. It was better too. As I sorted through my thoughts, my husband, lost in his own arrogance, began taunting me over the phone. "Hey, are you even listening? You'd be in trouble if we divorced, wouldn't you?" "Fine." "What? What did you just say?" "I said fine, let's get a divorce." No, you must be kidding. Do you even understand what a divorce means?" Of course I do, but if that's what you want, then you can start by preparing the divorce papers. Ha! As if you have the courage to actually follow through. Just remember this. In frustration, my husband abruptly ended the call without waiting for a response. Later, my phone rang again. This time, it was my former boss from my old job. Even after I became a housewife, my old boss had reached out to me several times. I had always been passionate about earning certifications, accumulating several before my marriage. These certifications, earned during my student days and early career, had greatly benefited my job, earning me a reputation and trust from higher-ups. Despite my decision to quit after getting married, they had made several attempts to keep me on board. Now, as I contemplated divorce while in the hospital, I also considered returning to work. When I shared this with my boss, he was immediately supportive. He agreed to reinstate me and even arranged for company housing. It was decided that I would return to work and move into the dormitory next month. I'm ready now. I can leave my husband anytime. When I returned home from the hospital, I found the completed divorce papers on the desk. Without hesitation, I signed them and immediately submitted them to the courthouse. I rushed back home, packed my essentials, and left before my ex-husband returned. A few hours later, while taking a breather in a budget hotel, my phone buzzed with a call from Kenny. Reluctantly, I answered his persistent calls, and he immediately started yelling. "Hey, did you get discharged from the hospital today?" "Yes, so what?" I replied calmly. "What do you mean, so what? You signed the divorce papers and left. Why didn't you wait for me to come back?" "You already know the answer. There's no reason for us to live together when we're practically strangers now, is there?" "Huh? Strangers? What are you talking about? You threw away the divorce papers, didn't you?" "Threw them away? You got scared when you realized I was serious about the divorce and threw them away, right?" Kenny seemed convinced that I couldn't possibly go through with the divorce. He spoke as if I had no intention of ending our marriage and must have discarded the papers. Responding to his misunderstanding, I replied with a hint of sarcasm. "Listen, you're mistaken. I never threw away the divorce papers." "Then where are they?" "I've submitted them to City Hall." "What kind of joke is this?" "It's not a joke. The papers have been accepted and you and I are now strangers. We'll never have to deal with each other again." He raised his voice in response. "Don't mess with me." Whether he believed me or not, he began blaming me again. "There's no way you can divorce me. You have no family, no job." "I certainly have no family, but I do have a job now." "Oh, you're just a housewife." That was true until now. While I was in the hospital, I contacted my boss and they agreed to hire me back. That's not something you can do so easily. "It's possible. They even told me they want me back." "There's no way." "You probably don't know, but I'm going to resume work and live in the company's dormitory starting next month." Kenny's voice took on a desperate tone. "Wait a minute, this must be a joke, right? I wasn't serious about the divorce." "I don't care. I accepted the divorce because it was what you wanted. There's no problem with that, right?" "But that's a problem. How am I supposed to live without you?" As soon as he realized it was a genuine divorce, my ex-husband began to plead and cling to me, failing to learn his lesson. Disgusted by his attitude, I couldn't help but raise my voice. "Ha, I don't care about your life. You're an adult, figure it out on your own. According to you, I was a failed wife, right? So you shouldn't have any problems without me." "That's not true." "Wait, I apologize. Please forgive me." "Shut up. I don't love you anymore. I will never forget how you treated me like a slave. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Reflect on your actions and live alone for the rest of your life." I hung up the phone abruptly and blocked his number, ensuring we would never interact again. However, my new job was at his workplace, and news of our divorce spread quickly through the office. Because he had bad-mouthed me there, many believed he got what he deserved. Feeling out of place, Kenny started taking unauthorized absences, which eventually led to his dismissal for misconduct. This severed all ties with him. Due to the alimony I demanded after the divorce, he ended up in debt. Losing his job and saddled with debt, I have no idea where he is or what he's doing now. The one thing I am sure of is that he isn't living the wealthy life. His unhappiness is my only consolation after the torment I endured. From now on, I will work for myself and live for myself, regaining the freedom I lost during our marriage.